right. And the Daily Guide this morning says that 67-killer driver was speeding. Some information beginning to come out from the investigations that have started. The Daily Graphic says EC bears feed, moves to enforce law, deploys officers to inspect party offices, and activities of thieves collapse high-tension tower. A photograph of that collapsed tower here. Greatco is working on it. The finder says snit TUC in a fight over computation of pension benefits, and World Bank pledges support for free senior high school digitalization agenda. No Ghana Post GPS, no business registration. That's from the Registrar General. And Chinese-controlled Ghana Manganese Company sidelines low-cost contract awarded to Chinese firms. That's the BNFT this morning. And that pylon story is on the Ghanaian Times. Sabotage, that's what is there. And photograph of Mr. Makoba and other Greatco officials inspecting the collapsed pylons. Those are some of the newspapers this morning. My guest to do the talking this morning, Member of Parliament for the Damongo constituency. He's a member of the NDC. Honorable Adam Mutawakilu is here. Good morning.
Good morning, my brother.
And hope you're doing great.
By His grace, I'm doing fine.
Thanks for joining. And I also have with me a member of the NPP and also a former, is it a former? You're still the a member of the team, you're still the second deputy. You're a member of the NPP's communication team, Nana Fredria Ajimo-Foriata. Good morning.
Morning, sir.
Hope you're doing great.
By God's grace.
Thanks for joining us. This story is too well known. We certainly would say a few minutes to talk about it. What happened in Parliament yesterday. The fact that on social media, some Ghanaians are not too excited about the fact that Parliament failed to remember its own people when it held a 1 minute silence for the victims of the New Zealand attack and the Cyclone Idai and other tragedies across the world, forgetting Kentampo and Mankesim in Ghana here. A lot of bashing going for members of Parliament, but is it deliberate? A member of Parliament is here. Let me put it to him. What was it? Deliberate, oversight, or what happened?
Yeah, thank you very much. And good morning to our cherished viewers and more especially the good people of Damongo constituency. You all realize that Mondays are usually not the days that Parliament sits. Yeah, it's not usually. It's occasionally when there is so much pressure and we needed to get things done. Like if we have an ally, legislative instrument that should take about 21 working days, and it is envisaged that following the normal timetable, it won't materialize before then. So there could be a Monday sitting, and that's what happened yesterday. And you know, the accident happened during the weekends. All other things being equal, it's expected that a statement might not be ready by then, but we could just observe a minute silence in memory of the dead. And that one, I would say, is an oversight. We must be frank, it's an oversight. But the other statements, these are things that have been written, approved by the Speaker, and therefore is part of the orders, the order paper for the day,
right?
Where statements are made. And a member, when it is approved and given to you, you go in line with what the Speaker has approved. You cannot veer off what the Speaker has approved.
You cannot add anything to
No.
What do you
because the Speaker has the statement. Sometimes the Speaker could even take out some portions of the statement, and you are not expected to read that portion. And therefore, you must go in line, because the Speaker has a statement. If you veer off, you can decide to end it at any time. Yeah. So it was for not having 1 minute silence for the dead is an oversight. But in terms of procedural, it was what is required of a member of Parliament to do. He couldn't have written this for the Speaker to approve. Probably last week,
right.
The Speaker approved that you are supposed to read it today, and then you veer off that to do other things. No. So I believe it was an oversight, and as I indicated, Mondays are usually not sitting.
So if the House had realized the need to quickly do that. It could have changed its rules to conform to put in a word or two for our
yeah, the speaker could take vary the rules. The majority leader could request that such an incident had happened, or any other member could request for the speaker to consider. So the final decision lies with the speaker to consider.
Great. Now, how do we, as outsiders, remind Parliament of some of these things?
Well, permit me quickly to just wish the family of a very, very good friend and brother, an NPP activist, Aminu Adam. He passed away 2 days ago. We buried him yesterday. He's a Muslim. Very strong person, very strong character, very affable. From the Ayawasa Central, Nima Mamobi area. He was an ardent watcher of your program. And so every time I came here and I left, I'd get a call from him, Nana Fredua, then he'd tease me, and I miss him a lot already. May his soul rest in peace. He was popularly known as Amingo.
Right.
So let me just say that we pray for his family. This matter brings to the fore, I'm answering your question in a roundabout way, it brings to the fore weaknesses on all sides and the opportunity for all sides. Sides being Parliament itself, the media, and the public. The contexts are many. First of all, like the Honorable pointed out notably, the fact that they sit on Mondays. It was an awkward moment for them, and they've got their processes that they go through. But the question is asked, could they not have found space? There's the speaker. Could the speaker not have found space? Because if they stick to their way of doing things, it seems like the speaker is the most powerful to change things, because he could probably insert a word or two. Could the speaker not have? The people whose statements who read their statements, could they not have found space in there? And if they did, it wouldn't have spoiled anything. Then there's the question, and this one I stand to be corrected. Could it not have been raised as a point of order in the scheme of things about Ghana? Because whatever they're doing there, it's about Ghana. So even if we're going strictly to the statements being made and the points being made, could you not now raise it that this thing has happened here, but it has happened here too? So can we not do something? So all these questions come, which draw to the issue of how Parliament operates. Apparently, our system is a hybrid of Westminster and how the Americans do their things, which means that if we're prepared to do a blend, then it means we should also be able to adjust for ourselves. So why not? So maybe Parliament needs to look at that. Now it raises the issue of the media. I thought it exposed the media's knowledge of procedure, because they would have recognized immediately that the sitting on Monday was awkward. They would have also recognized that the processes and proceedings for Parliament is such that it is actually tight. So they can't just up and do things if they're sticking to their own rules and regulations. So the media would now have, if the media were telling the public that this is what has happened in Parliament, there would be a certain sense of sympathy towards Parliament under their circumstances. And then they would probably be raising these sensitivities about, are you people sticking to Ghanaianness, or you're sticking to Westminster cum America? So the ignorance or lack of knowledge of the media about proceedings of Parliament was exposed. That's how I understood it. Then there's us, the public. We're depending on both sides. So as far as we're beneficiaries when they change. So Parliament needs to look at how they do things, and the media needs to be more in-depth on their knowledge of issues. Because you raise an uproar and you find out that you're actually the one who hasn't told us everything. If, for example, the Honourable didn't give us all this detail, somebody out there doesn't know that Parliament typically does not sit on Mondays. And when they do sit, it's for particular things, and so they tend to want to stick to the agenda, and that they have regulations. So all of this, and the best avenue for putting out that knowledge is the media. So the knowledge or appreciation of all of these details are important. I believe strongly, and I say this, I've done a bit of work with Parliament. when you understand what they have to work with, how they have to work, where they have to work, nowadays they're a little better off because they have their own offices and all that. But previously they really suffered. So when you put all that in context, sometimes you can appreciate better what they go through than normal. Having said that, it's the most important thing that came up for me in all this was that Ghana first. No matter what we do, there should have been some kind of struggle with the processes in Parliament for parliamentarians to say that we have to talk about Ghana. And that is the good part about what the media did, even in spite of my accusations against them. I am glad that it was raised. It was noticed and raised. And now it is an issue. So we're hopefully going to be better off after today. Because all of these things, now what should happen, what I expect, you know, they normally, Parliament, and it's not a fault of theirs, is the way parliaments work around the world. Parliaments typically go for the very political stuff. And then you see there's a committee on this, committee on that. It would be good to hear Parliament with one voice want to begin to discuss how we're dealing with our transportation and our road systems in a manner that brings force to how things work. You see, again, in reference to what I used to do with regard to Parliament, when you take, we did some research because we published a magazine on our program. We did some research and found that all parliaments, the highest number of questions raised per sector came from the road sector. Particularly, we checked in the 69 constitutional era, 79 constitutional era, and then this Fourth Republic. You go and check the number of questions asked per sector. You realize that the road sector had the most questions all the time. It's always been an issue. So there's the road issue, but this one wasn't just road, it was a matter of transport and how we manage ourselves.
Connected to road.
Yes. So it would be good to see that Parliament from this point on not only sympathizes with those who've passed away and their families, and therefore the rest of us, because it's traumatic for Ghana. We also deal with the issues themselves, so that when we understand, for example, that maybe in some places we need to consider dual carriage roads, it's not politicized, but it's recognized as an economic factor that will help us, a social factor that will help us. And all those discussions come to play. It will raise the stakes.
So Nana, briefly, so you concede that perhaps the media was not wrong after all, but it wanted that done, despite the difficulties.
He's protecting his people.
No, I'm not. Because you seem to say that we're wrong. On the other hand, you felt we're right.
Yeah, I'm saying that why. You can, and when you do a SWOT analysis, you find your weaknesses, and then you find whether it's an opportunity to now come back and fix it. In this case, the weakness was that Parliament, the media had a failing. They didn't have knowledge of how Parliament works. You should hear the kind of words they were using against Parliament yesterday and even this morning. You should hear the things they were saying. And clearly, they don't have an understanding of the procedures and the regulations.
So that is not. But that in the process, they have brought to the fore. They should have done what the media wanted them to do.
No, I haven't disputed that. If you notice, I also say that they should have found a way. Yeah. You see, so but the thing is that the weakness of the media has become an opportunity for they themselves. Now you should recognize that you should know a little bit more than you do when you're putting out information.
I'm sure all the people who cover Parliament,
you realize I said at least there should have been a mini silence for the which was a great oversight. Yes. I've admitted that. Not necessarily a statement. No. For a statement, the speaker has to go through
certain procedures.
And some
recognition.
Sure, yes, but I have admitted for not doing the right thing by at least a mini silence for the dead. Something. But I will take this opportunity to extend my condolences to the bereaved family, and more especially my colleague, Honorable Albert, who was much involved, and the MPs who have traveled down to ensure that things are done. The media as well, the medical practitioners, and the police. Yes.
We join you on that.
Let's spend 2 minutes each on this. Now there is, should I say another reawakening? We're talking about speed limiters on buses. We're talking about putting 2 drivers on these vehicles. We're talking about all kinds of measures to deal with this. How do we go, Nana? How do we check this? You just mentioned the issue of dualizing our roads linking our regional capital. One of the many. How do we deal with it? Briefly on this.
Well, first of all, let me put clearly on the table that I'm not a transport expert, so that I don't get misinterpreted. So that's out of the way. Well, you see, why is that we rarely hear that STC has a problem? We rarely hear that. It's because they stick to regulation.
Right now, drivers in the
bus. They stick to regulation. They do the STC is the safest. And I'm about to mention a company's name because of the way their driver behaved towards me only a couple of days ago. OA Travel and Tour or something like that. I've written the bus number down, the car number down. If they ever feel like they should get in touch, I'll let them know who the driver was. You're driving into a road. And because his bus is big, so he's careless about who's coming. He drives. When I confront him, he tells me, "Oh, Pabra." And then he just keeps moving. So he has to bump into my vehicle. So I have to quickly speed back. It's the etiquette of roads, of driving, the rules and regulations, all the things that go with it. We need to have inspectorates. I think that the Road and Safety Commission, for example, should be able to randomly walk into any bus company yard and check on their vehicles, check on their tires, make sure that they have the drivers, like you're saying. We should be able to have the inspectors on the road who are good, no bribe taking and all that funny stuff, who will do their work and give, so that if a bus is not going, you penalize the company. If they mess up, you stop them from working.
So it's a lot of work.
And it is there to be done. And you see, they should pay for it. It's those companies that will pay for that regulation. After all, when you are going to start your company, you must be registered with some entity or other that will make sure that you can do all this. So we should begin. That's why I said it would be great for Parliament to look into all these regulations and laws now that this is on the table, so that people can realize, because typically we're all, in totality, Ghanaians are also very populist. We Ghanaians will tell ourselves that our police, they are not good, they are bribe takers, they're this. And then when the police starts doing its work, the police are doing their work too much. I mean, police, yes. How ridiculous can you be?
Okay.
So we need to look at that.
Okay, all right. Yeah, talking.
My brothers clearly indicated implementation of the rules and regulations is very critical. The speed trackers is something that could help a lot. But the most important thing is for us passengers to know that we are the masters. The driver is a servant. And therefore, if the driver is speeding at a level you are not comfortable, you should be able to stop him. It's very important. But most often, when we are in a vehicle and the driver is misbehaving, sometimes we find it difficult to control the driver. And I think that it must come to a point where we, the passengers, must see that the driver is a servant to the passengers and not a master. And that could save a lot of lives. It is very important.
Should we be thinking about any policy framework to deal with this already? You think that we have a lot that we can use to make our roads safer?
Yeah, I think that we have the laws. If we truly implement the laws, we shouldn't have this type of road accidents.
Okay, let's take a look at the Economic Times this morning. Economy to absorb $3.5 billion within a month to bolster the cedi. If you take a look at the custodian, the cedi is bouncing back. And as of yesterday, 5.16. That's so a lot of news about the cedi's appreciation, not news at all. It's all over. Everyone is aware of what is happening to cedi. Now, let me start the conversation with you. The cedi's come back. How excited should we be?
Well, first of all, were we unhappy when it was depreciated?
We were.
Yes. So if it does not appreciated, what should happen? Of course, we should be excited that you don't have to spend as much as you had to before in order to buy a dollar. So that's good. I think the real conversation that somehow everybody appears to be dodging is our reality, our socio-political reality, our socio-economic reality, our financial reality about ourselves, and therefore the effect on this money. Why aren't we discussing that? This abrupt circumstance should bring that to the fore. I really don't care even if it's a political discussion as well. Let the politicians do their part, but let the economists come out. Let the finance people come out. We need to discuss this thing to come to true terms with what our true value is and how it should be, our currency should be managed. There are questions about the reason this thing goes up. First of all, let's be truthful to ourselves. In August, the dollar was around 4.7, 4.8.
Last year.
Yes. And then it traveled through to about 4.9 and stabilized through Christmas into January. And then come February, suddenly it starts skipping. What was the situation? What is the true reason? The finance ministry and the minister, I think, have come up with some analysis already. But the issue is we need to understand all of that. And then this matter of sending money away, repatriating money, which is what really causes, apart from our regular circumstance, which is trade. People import things and therefore have to pay in dollars, and we are very high consumers of imported goods. That aside, there's something in particular that goes on that we are not discussing. Those who go onto the market and buy money very quietly, not through regulation.
They're speculators?
I don't know what you'd call them. Okay. They send the money away from their business. For example, there's this argument about galamseyers and their money. When they sell to those people, the Chinese and whoever else who's buying it, what happens to that money? The churches, nobody wants to talk about it, very, very sensitive, but it's reality. Some of them are exporting money. You remember the case of Winners Chapel? There was a story about them putting money in tires and all. I mean, all of those things. When you put all of that package together, all of those things bring to the fore the fact that I think that when we done all the politicking and all the blah, 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 let's deal with some of these our truths to understand fully our picture as a country when it comes to that. So that when it settles on politics again, at least we understand what the politicians are saying a little bit more than we do now. Because why? In the period that the dollar was going up, a certain fine group of political party activists from a certain very big opposition political party went and held a press conference and built a big story about what they were concerned about with regard to our finances. While they were talking, the rate had appreciated.
But can the city say where?
And so what was the value of
drop
the
down
politics?
further? Can the city...
That one I cannot answer. I'm not a finance expert either. I remember that.
Grateful. So,
try anything.
How excited should we be? Some have said that, well, this is only kind of painkillers for the city. It will begin to show weakness again.
It's very important that we look at perspective of the economy and relate it to current situation. You know, the issue of the cedi depreciation and all that didn't start today. It started a long time ago, and when MPP was in power, they diagnosed it. When President Mahama was in power, he identified certain key things, interventions he had to bring in to ensure that we don't do artificial control. One, Dr. Bawumia, Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, then said when the fundamentals of economic are weak, the cedi, the exchange rate, will expose you. And it's simply our imports, we import more than we export. Under President Mahama, he identified certain key items that were destabilizing the cedi. One was poultry. We import so much into the system. So he set up 300,000 broiler projects so that it could boost the poultry industry. We call it, that is commonly import substitution, by producing it locally in a bid to reduce your imports. Then he identified that sugar was one of the huge import bills. So he set up the Commander's Sugar Factory, so that if they are able to produce enough sugar for Ghanaians to buy, we will be able to reduce imports. Then he identified rice was one of them. Then he boosted rice production and a factory to be set up at Savlugu. As of 2016, 60% of rice consumption was local. And the process for the setting up of the factory at Savlugu was in process. You could realize some time ago, even one of the partners went then on their way back to Tamale, there was an accident in Daso. This is putting the structure of the economy in place to ensure that irrespective of the activities, you will be able to reduce import to the minimum. In that case, there's no need for artificial injection. And that is setting the fundamentals of the economy right. And I think Dr. Bawumia, now Vice President, then, the running mate then, made a lot of noise that the structure of the economy is bad. Now they catapult to power, and you could see that the structure of the economy is still in limbo because our imports far exceeds export, and therefore there is the need. And most of the initiatives started by President Mahama had not been continued. We all know the Komande Sugar Factory is standing idle. The rice project is no more ongoing. The poultry currently is not anything we can talk about. Now, the second, in that case, when you approach it from this direction, you know that irrespective of the fluctuation, the fundamentals will hold it firm. But we've gone through situations where Cocoa Board come with syndicated loan. It simply beat down the dollar down, appreciate the cedi. When you exhaust it, what happened then? So this is an artificial injection of capital, dollars to bring down the dollar. But can we continue to bring down the cedi? The question is that can we continue injecting dollars into the economy?
What will we do to sustain the city?
That is what I just indicated.
Build certain structures.
Certain structures must be in place.
Change the structure of the economy.
Yes. And that is where we need import substitution.
So is a one district, one factory, for instance, a way of putting that structure in place?
Yeah. You know very well.
He's not the one to
I'm just coming. No. You know very well. You know very well that they have trumpeted one district, one factory, and as we speak, we cannot boast of any significant achievement. And that after 2 years, 3 months, one district, one factory has been in place for a long time. Private individual setting up their factories. You don't go and adopt. You adopt it and claim that, oh, that is your project. No. No. You see, you must approach things from a huge perspective. And you must account to the people. They cannot account how many of said things are producing and its impact on the economy after 2 years, 3 months. Do you get my point? After 2 years, 3 months, they should tell us. They cannot. They cannot.
Let me.
But you realize there were certain strides that President Mahama took. The Shanat factory in Bupe is a huge factory that is helping a lot. So if you go and you set up a Shanat factory in any of the northern regions, then you are wasting your time. Because that one is a huge one that could absorb all the northern sectors. If you talk of Gari, go and talk about people who are farming cassava. Go. Those days, when they bring a truck of cassava to Damangu, you see the women rushing because economic hardship is difficult. It's difficult. Those even women who do it go to sit in the sun the whole day, and maybe 2 or 3 bowls will be bought. Things are not working.
Nana, should we? Yes. If 1D1F is what will put this economy on a good balance, but some have also suggested that 1D and 1F should be reviewed to take a look at areas that we have competitive advantage, rice, salt, and others, instead of opening the whole thing to every district.
First of all, let me do the politics of the comments. The Honorable offered us 5. He gave us 3 so-called solutions from Mr. Mahama when Mr. Mahama was president. He talks about poultry. What was the effect of that? He said he started. What was the effect of the start? We should know. He talks about the rice situation. Was that the true picture on the ground?
60% of rice was local.
Yeah, is that true?
It's not true.
I'm asking. I need to know,
well,
because I don't get the. I don't. You see,
okay,
this is something. This is not something that a government will come and say stop. If it's happening, they will say stop, because if you approve 60%, and this is a government that has stated publicly and hasn't shown anything to go against agribusiness. In fact, it is promoting agribusiness. Would it stop a situation where you are producing 60% of the rice in Ghana? So they should prove it to us. And then this Commander Sugar Factory is not a comment the Honorable should have made. We know the circumstances of Commander. It was a purely political thing. They did nothing. You rushed to put the thing, spent $35 million on it. We have no effect.
It could not have been done.
It was not done. Nothing happened beyond the
if it was not done, then it could not have been done now.
No, let me deal with, when you didn't ask him questions, let me deal with that one.
No,
and
but
then I'll solve your
supposed
problem.
To ask questions.
I'll solve your problem.
Yes.
I promise you that. But I'm saying his comment was as if something had happened. Nothing happened. They spent $35 million and nothing happened. And that was one of the reasons they lost the election. It's because the people in Commander knew they were not telling the truth. You hadn't developed your outgrower system properly, because you need to grow the sugarcane in order to feed it. They just ran 2 tests or so, produced some sugar that didn't turn out very well, and then they couldn't work it. Circumstances now I haven't asked, but I have no problem if we're saying that we need to see it working, and I won't be surprised if they're working.
You think they should be working now?
If it is something that is viable, we should. I have no problem with that, yes. But let us not sit here and accept the fact that they did it. They didn't do nothing. As they will say on the streets,
but the question is that if the NDC didn't do anything, we voted them out. The question is that, couldn't you have done it now? Can't we do it now?
You see, now let's deal with our circumstances. We've come with a new policy, and let's stick with that. Let's not be defensive. Let's not try to position the Akufo-Addo government as if they're being defensive.
Is your policy not inclusive of cutting down imports?
The policy, the big policy, is to transform the economy. How do you do that? You come up with issues that help you industrialize. So you reduce your dependence on forex and foreign exchange and foreign goods. That's the big picture.
Right.
You also do that so you create jobs, opportunities for people, especially young people. All of that is in the package. How do you do that? You section off certain areas of the economy and be aggressive on it. For example, agriculture. That is why there are all those policies that have come up on agriculture, planting for food and jobs. The Honorable wants to tell us that 1D1F is not a new policy. Who said poultry is a new policy? I don't know where he was when General Achampong was head of state of this country. I don't understand. So it's not about whether a policy is new or not. It is about focus. Now, let's deal with the issues that the Akufo-Addo government has raised, for which we can see that, yes, the fundamentals are being dealt with, are truth. All of us must know, and people know. It's not like we're saying something new. People know that these things don't happen overnight. So planting for food and jobs, it's a process. People pick up the policy, they work with it. The agriculture minister and the ministry keep giving us information about how things are developing. Some people have seen it because they're closer to the farms and what have you. They're experiencing. The rest of us feel it in one form or the other, through prices and food production and all that. So it's there. You get young people now being very interested in farming because there's aggressive a way of approaching the policy. I'd say that we probably need even additional communication to make it even more exciting so that people get involved in it. There's benefits there. What it does is that it now feeds into the one district, one factory policy. One district, one factory, has it gone at the speed that we expected and we were told would happen? Not necessarily. I agree. My hands up on that one. But is it there? It is there. Over 70 factories are being built or have been, some are being built.
70 have been built.
70 are being built or have been built or are working. Go to their secretariat and ask.
Nana, which is which? 70 being
built.
I
said it is because you depending on the size of the factory and what you seek to achieve, it doesn't happen overnight. Okay. That's why I said and are working. Some are being built, some have been built and have begun working. So it's a matter of going there and finding out the details. But the reality is that it is a policy that is being
You don't believe in that review? That
I don't think
take a look at it and see where we have advantage.
Here's the
and then we're touching too many things that not being able to
the political philosophy behind 1D1F doesn't match what you're saying. Our reality is that, for example, there are some local people who are producing chocolate or vehicles, and then you're saying the state should go and compete with them.
I'm asking of areas where we have competitive advantage.
I'm saying,
for instance, take a look at rice.
The competitive advantage.
Take a look at sugar.
You don't do state empowerment of political advantage unless the private advantage is totally non-existent. Okay. In this instance, the argument is that the rice, assuming let me, for argument's sake, say that what he said is true. Assuming that is true, that we're producing 60%. It is not the state that's producing 60% of the rice. It's private farmers.
Can the state partner the private farmers?
What you do is that you let this, you're planting for food and jobs, stand firm, empower them so that they do what they're doing. You don't overburden the state with those things. Okay. And that's what there's one village, one dam and all that are regulatory processes that will feed into the industrialization process. And these are the fundamentals. Fact. He himself admits it, that these are the fundamentals. Fact. So, as for the fundamentals, Nana Akufo-Addo and his government are on track with them.
Okay.
Why? Ghanaians are very eager, and I'm a Ghanaian, so am I. So that one is not in doubt, and we can't.
The fundamentals is good.
You cannot
not in doubt. You cannot because of.
You cannot doubt the fact that the fundamentals are being worked on now. And you see, not only that, we ourselves as a people must also look at our role in all of this, because it isn't a government burden, it is a people's burden. For example, the matter of taxes. What kinds of taxes should be paid, those who are supposed to be paying them, whether we're doing what is due us. We should be talking about all of those things. For example, education. How prepared are people, skills development for the young people, so that when they get out of school, they have work to do and they can go into specific areas of their interest and to their benefit, so that all of us all of that is a total package that is out there. Let us recognize it is real.
I'm grateful. Let's take some comments and come back.
Yes, sir. Senior Bright, thank you very much. We'll start over with Tilapia. It says, police public in mistrust tweet, and you see the stories from last week. The policeman who was beaten by the trotro driver and his mate on one side, and then the press who were supposedly abused by the police. So we're told that the investigations are ongoing. It started on the 20th. Some officers have been interdicted, but we want finality brought to the matter. Have the police officers been asked to put their statements too? We want to know. And then Tilapia also has another one. He calls this, sorry, I have retired. And Galamsey Fraud Part 2, that's supposed to be a NAS coming up on your screens shortly. It says, please stop him from airing. Supposed to be some corrupt officials. And this man on the right in the blue with his hands in between his laps clasped, it says, sorry, I have retired. Retired from what exactly? We'll find out some more. But let it sink in. And that's on 191 Stars as officer says, it's obvious that the killing on our roads are largely attributed to our attitudes and indiscipline. About 80% indicated that all of our road crashes are caused by human error, majority of which are linked to unnecessary overspeeding and overtaking. My regards to Original Minister Dr. Hafiz bin Salih. Mugis in Mohammed in Tamale says, good morning, Mr. Bright. The carnage on our roads is very worrisome. For me, I think we should make all the long stretch double roads, and that will help minimize the accidents on our roads. Takrade kidnapped baby's mother admits her mistake. The baby's mother deserves strong beating. Oh, how? How can you just give your kids to a stranger to go and buy things for them? Why can't she go get it and bring it to the kids? Irresponsible parenting, very irresponsible. You leave your child to be stolen and later blame the police. Let me tell you, police can't be everywhere. Security is a shared responsibility. Abladi Ifeku Mazungo. What happened to communal living, Abladi? I'm just curious to know. Good morning. It's disappointing for a country to adopt 2 foreign languages as its official languages. This clearly shows how we are still under colonization. We tend to see our local languages to be irrelevant, to be considered as a national language. Obi Intakrade. Good morning to all the panelists and to TV3. Bright, let's put political differences aside and speak to the facts. NPP is working to elevate all the economic hardship as we all witnessed the CD appreciating some few days ago. But no NDC communicator spoke about it. No NDC communicator spoke about it. They only know how to cook figures and criticize this government. Alasan Babalidu in Tamale. Good morning, Bright, Johnny, and Doc. God bless you for the good work you're doing for Mother Ghana. I don't think any explanation from both political parties can make any sense than rendering an unqualified apology to the good citizens of this country. We are very disappointed in them. That's what you say. We'll come back to the comments shortly, Bryce, but that's where we're leaving.
Okay, I'm grateful. Right, John will be back with more of your comment. So he says that, well, the fundamentals are great, and so we should see a lot more.
It is only the MPP. In 2016, the fundamentals are weak, and the CD exchange rate has exposed you. Because the moment the exchange rate gets worsened, the fundamentals are weak in 2016. In 2018, the exchange rate is serious, very devastating, and they say, oh, the fundamentals are strong. So now there's a new theory that when the exchange rate, when the fundamentals are strong,
the factories,
I'm still coming to the factories.
The structure of the, put the structure of the economy in good form.
No, he said the fundamentals are good. That means that the exchange rate do not depend on the fundamentals.
That's not what I said.
Are you getting my point? Now, let me go back. My brother said the outgrowers, you construct a factory without outgrowers. You see, we must know the duration of a sugarcane. It's 6 months. You are putting up a factory for 2 years. That will take 2 years to complete. And you want them from day one, they should start putting up farming sugarcane.
Sugar?
2, there was a second loan facility for outgrowers. We expected that by now, you should have utilized it. After 2 years, 3 months, and you cannot still utilize it for the outgrowers to grow sugar to feed the factory. 2.5 years. The most critical thing is the factory to be in place. Within 6 months, if you organize yourself, they can start producing the sugar to feed the factory. 2 years onwards, no sugar has been produced to feed the factory. This is intentional. 2, I said poultry. He said, oh, at Champions time, nobody said that most of the project we are implementing hadn't been done by one government or the other. In fact, this planting for food and jobs, you could remember in 2009, we have block farm projects. And that resulted in setting up most of these buffer stock companies, which the government is using under the NDC. So when you change the name and you want to treat it like it's a different thing, it's not. And that is how they are used to. You know the Tata bars, they change it to OSA. OSA, they change it to Metro Mass and made it like special. Most of what we are doing today had been started by one government or the other. But the agency and the measurement, I said 60%. You have mentioned 77 factories either completed or in progress yet to start. It wasn't definite. That means they don't even know what input they have done.
We'll have to go to the secretariat.
So I thought by now they should be mentioning 1, 2, 3. That if you go, you realize that mention factories. The Shell factory in Bupe under President Mama. I thought that somebody who is interested in ensuring and a stand member of the MPP should be able to mention 2, 3, 4 of the companies that are actually working. But now I want to look at. I want to look at the. I want to look at the effect of the drop. Recently, petroleum prices increased, attributable significantly to the depreciation of the cedi. As we speak, the cedi is depreciated because of the artificial injection of dollars. There is a drop. But Monday, we are experiencing increase. Meanwhile, the oil price is not going up. We want to explanation as to why the increment was attributable to significantly to the depreciation of the cedi. Now you've injected and the prices are still going up. There's no correlation. And the government must come up to explain and reduce the fuel prices because the cedi is gaining strength against this dollar because of the artificial injection of the dollar.
Right.
Okay, no, wrap up.
Yes, first of all, I don't understand how the NDC in particular is so eager to see us suffer as a people. I don't understand. The cedi is appreciating, why is it appreciating? It shouldn't. It's depreciated, why is it? What exactly do they want? For me, it's neither here nor there. And then you want to talk about names, changes, and things like that. You're the one who brought the argument to the table. I wasn't interested in that. You're the one who brought it to the table about one policy being this and that. Meanwhile, you were copying too. The issue on the table is, and I never said that we finished the fundamentals. I never said that. Everything that is being done is a continuous process. And why? They are acting as if we have had 8 years of office. We have had only 2 years, 3 months. You had 8 years of office. So in 2 years, 3 months, have we established what we want to call the fundamentals? You refer to one project, poultry. You refer to one project, Commander, and you think that that is encompassing enough of a Ghanaian economy? We're talking about something that applies to everybody on all levels. One district, one factory goes to all levels. So it isn't about you. And you were trying to propose your question, which for me was a good question, because it lets us all understand the situation, which is we should go and the government should own a factory, for example, that's focused on a particular area. Fair question. And I gave you my thoughts on that. But the point about 1D, 1F is that it's all encompassing. So if the Honorable finds that yam is the thing that we should produce in Damongo area, and so we should put up a factory that can process it, so that when we have buffer stock on that, he can buy some, process it and keep it. That is the thinking behind it. It industrializes the area. When you do that, you will now reduce your imports on that level and allow people to do things.
Are you able to explain why the cedi is appreciating and yet fuel prices are going up?
You know I'm not technically sound on those things. Don't ask me that, right? Especially.
But is it a cause to worry about?
I don't know yet.
For you?
I don't know yet. We must ask the questions to those who know. When they tell us, then we draw our conclusions. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know. I don't.
But it doesn't worry you?
Why? We should find out why. Of course it worries me. Why? Okay. You don't think I buy petrol? I buy petrol.
Okay.
But you see, let us get into this. There's a consistent interest and attack on hitting the government for trying to transform this economy. That one we don't have a problem with it. But let us do it based on the truth. Let us do it based on the truth.
You translate that to mean you government?
Why? You raised questions this morning and I agree with
something clear.
That yes, it is a good question. Okay. Whether it is how to go about it is a matter of perspective.
Is that what you call hitting the government?
Pardon?
Is that what you call hitting the government?
No, that one is good hitting.
Which one is
the bad hitting is when you don't want to tell the truth about what's going on. When you don't want to tell them, you can't call a press conference. Why cannot? That does not deal with the truth because they are excited. They don't have anything to grab onto. They think that the forex rate has gone haywire, so they should hold the press conference. As they're holding the press conference, the thing has appreciated. They cannot even tell us.
You inject artificial. That one has been done over, and that's why.
Have you heard Ken Ofori-Atta or anybody from his ministry tell us that what they have done is the solution? And do you know that 3 billion hasn't hit anybody's account?
Okay, all right.
And yet the speculators recognize the effect of the fundamentals and what the minister is doing. And so when he spoke,
there are certain key
commodities. So that's what we're looking at.
There are certain key commodities
on the economy
that impact on our
economy. Nobody has said that anything is
you realize sugar,
what we're saying is that let us do the right thing so that it's long lasting.
Poultry is what you import so much. Rice is what you import so much. Yeah. That is destabilizing the city.
It's not the only thing.
You have to target
it is not
and reduce it. You don't go the laissez-faire way of
I'm grateful. Adam Mutawakilu is MP for Damongo, a member of the NDC. Nana Freddy Ajimo-Ofori-Atta, a member of the NPP. Grateful for Tuesday morning with us. Stay here.